All right, rise and shine, Lemonheads. How are you this morning? Stretch, where are you streaming from? First order of business, you guys know the first order of business. Put it in the chat. First order of business is to hit the like and thumbs up because it does affect the algorithm. More people become aware of our conversation and our channel, and that's really important so that we can bring you the news and the information without the gatekeepers, okay? So good morning, Lemon Nation. Glad that you're here. Scranton, Pennsylvania's here, Missouri's here, and we have a big show because we've got breaking news as usual. I mean, so much news lately. Goodness gracious. I mean, we were deciding, we thought we were going to talk about Pam Bondi, and then we got news of this breaking news. Put it up, Andy. This is a breaking news coming from Tom Homan and folks over at the New York Times. And the New York Times is reporting that Tom Homan, the White House, who is the White House border czar, said that they would end the aggressive immigration enforcement operation in Minnesota that began late last year that resulted in thousands of arrests, as well as shootings and the death of 3 people. The New York Times just says a shooting of 3 people, but you know, people died as well. So that's the breaking news. We're going to discuss that. We're going to get to Pam Bondi later, but I want to bring in friend of the show and also who happens to work for the New York Times, and that's Michael Gold. He is a congressional reporter for the New York Times, and he's also been reporting on this. Michael, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. I know that you're very busy. Is this surprising that and it looks like they're pulling out completely, but the thing says they sort of hedged and said in the aggressive enforcement.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to wind down their operations in Minnesota, but I think we are waiting to see what exactly that looks like, how that takes place, how long the process is. But I think it caught some people up on the Hill where I am right now off guard. You know, I just came out of a hearing with Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, and a bunch of Minnesota officials who didn't seem to have any idea that this was happening.
Oh, they didn't. Keith Ellison and the Attorney General. This hearing is on the Hill. On the Hill.
Yeah, there's a hearing on the Hill with a bunch of Minnesota officials happening right now, separate from this Tom Homan press conference. But the Senate is doing a hearing today about what's happening in Minnesota. And the officials, Keith Ellison and Paul Schnell, who's in charge of the Department of Corrections, were both saying they wanted to see better cooperation. They wanted to see a change in operations. They did not seem to know that this announcement was happening today.
Wow, caught off guard. What do you think is behind this? Because I mean, this look, it's breaking, and a lot of things could change here. But I think this changes a lot of narratives. What does this portend for other states or cities? And what happened? I mean, look, we've had deaths there. The people who have been investigated because of protests there, et cetera. I wonder what this portends for Minnesota and elsewhere.
I think the fact that Tom Homan was even sent there suggested that President Trump and the administration knew that a change needed to be made, that the optics were looking bad, that the situation in Minnesota was not good for the president. I think we've seen in polling that even people who are broadly supportive of what the administration is doing on immigration had serious reservations about what was happening with this particular surge. And I think there was a sense that the politics of this were starting to get very bad for Republicans and very bad for the president. And polling has borne that out.
So this is all about optics and polling.
Well, I think there is a sense that the shootings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good was not something that the administration wanted, but I do think it's very clear that the president has lost the high ground that he felt he had on immigration. And I think there's some responsiveness to what happened to these 2 deaths and to the ongoing investigations into them.
Michael, I want to ask you about, there's a hearing. Is this the same hearing that you were in? The one that Hakeem Jeffries is at and Robert Garcia?
No, that's a separate situation here on the Hill. The House is doing what they call a shadow hearing today on some of these issues.
They're just as they're giving this hearing on ICE accountability, and you have Tom Homan doing this. Obviously, they did not know either.
Yes, and I think, there's a lot of skepticism in general about continued enforcement. I want to stress that the objections around this stuff are not just about Minnesota, but are much broader than that. So,
look, then tell us, look, this caught us off guard as well, because I'm not exactly sure what to say about it, because it's, obviously breaking news. But this news conference was in Minnesota, we're told. And this administration does not really like to cooperate with anyone, especially the Democrats. And one would think that they would want this known. without just surprising people? Maybe I'm being naive about it.
My sense is that this announcement today is supposed to also help clear the way for the negotiations happening in the Senate over how to limit immigration enforcement efforts. I think there's a sense, the Democrats have been demanding strong changes to how ICE operates. And I think there's a sense Republicans have that if they can show that they're willing to adapt, that they're pulling back, that maybe some of those demands will soften a little bit, though there's nothing to suggest that Democrats are going to soften their position on some of their requests.
So what do you mean maybe those demands will soften a little bit? What are you talking about?
I think the White House is hoping that they can gain some ground here. Democrats want to unmask ICE agents. They want them require them to have visible IDs. They want to see judicial warrant requirements for when ICE agents enter homes. Those are all red lines for a lot of Republicans. But I think there's a sense that if the operations in Minnesota draw back, if the administration can signal in some way that they're willing to soften their approach, that maybe Democrats might be more willing to support a compromise. But I want to make clear right now, Democrats in the Senate have been unified against any kind of compromise. They really want stronger restrictions on immigration enforcement.
Michael Gold, parting words, as I always ask you, what questions didn't I ask, and what do you want to tell the Lemon Nation here?
Look, I think the thing I want to stress is that right now on the Hill, it looks, as of this morning, as if we're headed toward a shutdown of the Homeland Security Department. And I think a big question is whether the Homeland's announcement today changes the equation for anybody. But as of now, it's too soon to tell.
Is this part? Well, is that part of that? Did I miss something? Is that part of that's the negotiations that you were saying, right? They're hoping to
those are the negotiations
compromise,
today.
but that the Homeland Security doesn't shut down, correct?
Right. Yeah. So there's a deadline tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. essentially to fund the department. And if they can't reach an agreement, then the department will shut down. And so I think what might be happening here, though I can't say, this is just speculation on my part, is the administration is trying to show that it's willing to change the posture of its immigration enforcement efforts to try to get Democrats to agree to fund the department.
Thank you, Michael. Much appreciated. Okay. Thanks so much.
Sorry for the sound here.
No, totally fine. Now, look, this is how we like it. People who are close to the ground, and you always are, and you always get the good stuff. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Don.
All right. So thank you. So I want to bring in now Representative Deborah Ross. She served in North Carolina's 2nd Congressional District since 2021. Good morning to you, Congresswoman. We appreciate you joining us. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We're about to vote.
Yes, I know. A little more headroom if you can, because I want people to see all of you. I have to ask you, I know we're going to talk about that bizarre hearing yesterday. By the way, you were fantastic. The question is, I want to get some breaking news in, if you will. We're getting word from Tom Homan. I don't know if you heard that they're going to pull back or pull out of Minnesota. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I consider that a win for people who have been showing how bad ICE and CBP have been in violating people's constitutional rights, killing citizens. And so that's a big win. But I don't trust the Trump administration. They can pull out and then they can go back in. And they've got all the manpower, all the money to be able to do that. And so let's see if it sticks. Good that they're getting out, but they better stay out.
Yeah. Now, listen, I don't know if you heard, I was speaking to the New York Times reporter earlier, just moments ago, and he said he believes that this would perhaps soften Democrats, at least on voting to continue to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Do you believe that?
Well, we haven't obviously had an opportunity to talk about it, but what we need are clear and enforceable rules. And we all know that Donald Trump promises something or says he's going to do something and then does exactly the opposite, or does it for some short period of time to curry favor and then turns around and does it again. And so we haven't seen any commitment to having warrants, making sure that we can identify who these officers are, keeping them out of places of worship, all sorts of different kinds of things. And without those ironclad commitments, that is not going to be good enough to solve this problem.
Okay. I thank you for responding to that. And then maybe we'll talk to you more about it after more is known. Let's discuss now what happened yesterday with Pam Bondi. Andy, roll this short clip and then we're back with the Congresswoman. Here it is.
The same level of facility. I don't know why, but you know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should be talking about Irina Zarutska.
I have a couple
who died on a subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So, of course, we're moving back to you. It is all about you.
Wow. Okay. What did you think? I mean, there wasn't quite an answer to your question. It was more of an ad hominem attack.
Well, that's her playbook. You know, that was not a surprise. We were prepared for all of that. The question is, how do you respond to it in the moment? You know, with the Republicans, she answered respectfully, yes or no questions. And then with the Democrats, she played these ridiculous games. And that's not just a disservice to the committee hearing, it's a disservice to the American public. We were asking very legitimate questions. She even agreed with me on things, but she couldn't find it in her professional repertoire to act like the chief law enforcement officer for the United States of America. And that's very sad. She was performing for one person and one person only, and that was Donald Trump. And her duty is not to Donald Trump. It is to the Constitution and the people of this country. And clearly, she is derelict in that duty.
Well, you know, I've always said that this administration, well, since they've been in office again, that they have it backwards. They think that they don't realize that they are public servants. They think that perhaps they're a monarchy and everybody else is part of the court or court jesters or whatever. But they forget that they are public servants, that we pay their taxes, and they, you know, American people, the American citizens are owed some transparency and some respect. But they don't think so. And by the way, I just want to say, Jen Griffin, who is one of our members here on the channel, just said there should be consequences for performances like that. Do you agree with that?
Well, yes, there should be consequences. I think that the main consequence is in the court of public opinion. So we see who Donald Trump has chosen to be around him. And again, that their loyalty is to Donald Trump and not to the people and to the Constitution and to the country. And people are going to have a real good opportunity to show their dissatisfaction come November. But the most important thing is that they show their dissatisfaction between now and November, because we have seen when public opinion is strong, Donald Trump caves. That's another thing that is going on with them getting out of Minnesota. It is because of the American public, how we have responded. Of course, how the people in Minnesota have been brave, exercised their First Amendment rights, and have been absolutely incredible. But the rest of the country has responded. And Donald Trump doesn't like bad numbers.
Yes, you're right. How do you think Pam Bondi and well, look, you just gave a lot of people hope because I know that the folks who are members and subscribers to this show often feel like they have no agency, and that politicians are not, or I should say lawmakers are not fighting hard enough for them. But you think that this has made a real difference, and that's why they're pulling out.
Absolutely. And I will just tell you this, and I'll say to them, what I say to my constituents at the end of most of the events I have, you have some really, really powerful tools in the Constitution. I am going to be your representative. I am going to speak up. Clearly, you saw that. I'm going to convene people. I'm going to do whatever I can do. Anytime you're confused or frustrated about what to do, pull out your First Amendment and use one of those rights. Assemble. Go to one of the marches. Petition the government. Post something. Call somebody up. Use one of your First Amendment rights. It's a really, really great thing that we in this country have the ability to do it. And if we all do it together, it makes a powerful difference.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Continue to serve the people of North Carolina well. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
I had my handy pocket constitution that I keep with me at all times.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got a what is I like to call it? It's one of the cable news shows. What do they call it? Our power panel. I am joking, but we've got some great folks here. We've got Jen Welch and we've got Tim Miller. Can we just pop him up on the screen? We can call him our motley crew. Oh, Tim,
Our panel.
Oh my God, somebody's been working out. What are you doing?
Not me.
Are you doing roids?
I have a ladies' weights class I go to. It's me and Mom. And it's been.
You got to
really
go to
nice.
your Zumba class.
I go twice a week. I'm the only man there.
Okay, stand by because I got to get this in, and then we're going to come back and talk with you guys. 2 minutes. Here's a word from our sponsors. This episode of the Don Lemon Show is brought to you by Wild Grain. If you love good bread but don't love the work that comes with it, this is for you. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas. Everything bakes in about 25 minutes or less, which feels like cheating, but in the best way. What I like most is the simplicity of it all. Real ingredients, slow fermentation, no preservatives, no shortcuts. It tastes like something from an artisan bakery, not a supermarket shelf. My favorites, the sourdough loaves and the croissants. I've also been obsessed with their fresh pasta. It turns a regular weeknight dinner into something that feels intentional. And the boxes are fully customizable. You can choose from their classic variety box, gluten-free vegan or new protein box. It's perfect for quick dinners, weekend brunch, or just having something great on hand when you don't feel like cooking from scratch. So right now, Wild Grain is offering listeners $30 off your first box plus free croissants for life when you go to wildgrain.com/lemon. That's $30 off your first box and free croissants for life at wildgrain.com/lemon. This episode of the Don Lemon Show is brought to you by Graza, makers of crazy fresh olive oil. If you cook even a little, you know olive oil isn't just an ingredient, it's the foundation. Graza has sizzle for everyday cooking, drizzle for finishing, and frizzle for high heat grilling and frying. And now they have added olive oil, mayo, and aioli, rich blend, and actually different from what you usually find in stores. So Graza is the olive oil I keep in my kitchen. It's fresh, never blended, and you can see the harvest date right on the bottle. That matters. I'm always hosting dinners, and I like having both sizzle and drizzle on hand, not just because they taste great, but because they make even simple food feel elevated. If you want to upgrade your cooking without overthinking it, start with better oil. Go to graza.co and use the code LEMON for 20% off of your first order, and look for Graza Mayo at your local grocery store. So now it's hi, everybody. We're back. Just having a little conversation here amongst the family. All right, I want to bring in now my power panel, muscled up Tim Miller, MSNBC, I should say MS Now analyst and the host of the Bulwark podcast, and the Jennifer Welch is a host of the I've Had It podcast and the author of Life is a Lazy Susan of Shit Sandwiches. What's your new book that comes out?
Oh, my new book is called Not Today Fascists, similar to Not Today Satan.
Not today, Satan. Is it
not
out
to
now?
be confused with. No, it comes out in October.
In October. Okay. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for joining. So, guys, did you hear the news about Tim? I'm going to go to you first about Tom Homan saying that they're going to pull out of Minnesota. What do you think?
Did hear the news. I don't like hearing Tom Homan and pull out in the same sentence. I haven't seen you though, Don, as a free man yet. So I just wanted to say I'm happy to see you walking the streets, unshackled, unchained.
Thank you. Thank
Speaking
you.
your truth.
Thank you for supporting, and thank you for coming in. I heard that you made 2 appearances on that day, and you were very supportive.
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
So,
and one of the things I said, I think it relates to this, is that, it sucks for you. You have to go through this, but you're going to come out of that stronger. And these guys' tactics just aren't working right now. I mean, they're causing a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And so I don't mean to minimize that, but in the kind of sweep of where we're going here, the people of Minnesota were out in the streets, and they essentially protected their own city from these masked goons that came in, and they were forced to, send Greg Bovino back to California because of the backlash, and Tom Homan came, and now he's leaving because they, with no concessions. I mean, they're claiming that they've gotten some. They haven't offered any specifics on. They said, well, the police are cooperating with us more now. No details. There's no evidence that the police chief O'Hara has changed his policies in any way. What they realized is that this was a political loser. The people of Minneapolis' voices really mattered. And I felt the same way about their attempt to go after you. I was like, just Don Lemon's going to come out of this stronger. And I feel the same way, by the way, about their bluster about these guys standing outside of voting booths. I was like, more people are going to turn out to vote if they try to put mass thugs outside of voting locations. So I think like in a kind of short term perspective, their policies are failing. Obviously, that is not much comfort for like people who are being detained or harassed by these thugs, but there's something to be said for that on the political side of it.
Well, Tim, thank you for that. And look, you said attempt to go after it tomorrow, first court date. So stand by to go to bed early because we may need you tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Jen. These awful pictures. You and I have discussed this personally, at the City Winery when we appeared together in our show together at City Winery, and on this on the streaming show here, your show and mine. Just these images of people, and for us, it's images, right? These are real lives that are being affected. Women being dragged across the ice and pulled out of cars, and children being frightened and glass shattering in their faces. It's awful.
It's terrible, and I think about a lot. Renee Good, she had a black lab in the back of her car. And I think about that moment where you're just living your life and you have your dog in the back seat. And what she said to these ICE agents is, "Hey, dude, I'm not mad at you." And then she gets her face blown off. Yeah. And then he calls her a fucking bitch just for spite. And so ICE can pull out of Minneapolis and Minnesota. But what was this all about? We have Americans dead. You have the administration talking about purchasing warehouses to store people, AKA concentration camps. And I just think that we have to keep applying pressure. I echo everything that Tim said about the resistance on the ground and how important that is. And I just think that this Gestapo, is what I call it, needs to be completely abolished. I think it's FUBAR. I think that the lives that were lost there and the trauma that will be generational trauma because people are hiding in Minneapolis, not going to school, not going to work. This is real trauma at the hands of our federal government for nothing, all based on some right-wing scam about Somali daycares.
Mm-hmm. What's this all about? What you said, Jen, that's a great way of putting it, because folks are wondering the same thing about what happened yesterday and Pam Bondi. And I'm sure you guys got Tim, you're probably tired of talking about it because that's all everybody's been talking about. So let's talk about some of it without, we'll show a little bit. Let's show this is Becca Ballant yesterday, not the one from her speaking this morning, Andy, but yesterday, just a little bit of what went on between her and Pam Bondi.
I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is
Jewish. I just want to be clear.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust? Really?
Okay. Yesterday. But Tim, this is what I want you to respond to. This is her talking about them, surveilling them as they went into the skiff to look at this material. Here it is.
She knew that I had looked at records from Howard Lutnick, who is the Commerce Secretary. And that was my line of questioning, to ask her, has the DOJ interviewed these high-ranking members of the Trump administration about their ties to Epstein? She knew that because they were spying on us. They were surveilling us at the DOJ terminals, the computer terminals, and had printouts for what files we had looked at. And Howard Lutnick is of Jewish descent. And so this is one of the most chilling aspects of what happened yesterday. So not only did she have insults prepared for all of us and not answering the question, and survivors were in the room. They were desperate to get some answers and to be acknowledged. And what she was concerned about was bringing up, based on the dirt, including how we were surveilled at DOJ, to try to discredit us. And the survivors left once again feeling like their government had let them down. And it's heartbreaking.
So you get it here. Yeah. Wow. Surveilling? This is authoritarianism.
It is. It's Keystone authoritarianism, though. Because anybody, they're stepping on rakes.
Timu authoritarianism.
Yeah, Timu authoritarianism. They're stepping on rakes, particularly in the Justice Department. Obviously they've had too much success dismantling the government with Russ Vought and Stephen Miller's immigration regime, but the DOJ has been Pam Bondi has been a disaster. It was their base that was really driving interest in the Epstein story initially. You just have to, almost give them credit for that. You hate to hand it to them, but when she got in there, she was one that created those big binders and said, I've got the names of the co-conspirators on my desk and we're going to go after them. And now she's over there shouting about the stock market, making absurd anti-Semitism accusations. They are redacting the names of co-conspirators and showing the names of victims. It has been a disaster class across the board. That she has nothing to show for it. She has nothing to show for it on their campaign of revenge and retribution that Donald Trump wants her to execute. Jim Comey walks free. Tish James walks free. Ramesa Osturk is free. You're free. They don't have any prosecutors to prosecute these cases. They've got, they're getting parking lot attorneys to try to, go after people. The entire AUSA district attorney office in Minneapolis has quit, basically. So, they're doing a lot of pernicious things. It is chilling that they're spying on members of Congress, but I don't think she did herself a damn bit of help yesterday with that performance. I don't know who it was for.
Come on.
Well, it's for Trump himself. Yeah. But I meant to say, you're right, Don. I don't know who it's for in the electorate. I don't know who watched that and was like, I'm compelled by this, besides people that are already in the cult. I think that the people out there who are watchers of Joe Rogan or whatever, who really care about the Epstein story and have been following it for 10 years, I think look at that performance and they're like, you're a clown. And there were conservative media commentators yesterday saying Pam Bondi should quit.
Jen, she did not come off as the sharpest knife in the drawer yesterday.
No, it was so performative. It was so cringeworthy. But I think that a part of Trump's plan and Project 2025's plan is to take DOJ and turn it upside down. My husband, Josh, Don, he's a criminal defense attorney. And typically DOJ and prosecutors, things are buttoned up. They're really, really buttoned up. They recently went to get 6 indictments for lawmakers. And the grand jury, regular everyday citizens, are now putting up resistance to the incompetence of this DOJ. And they couldn't get these 6 indictments. And so you see resistance and bravery now all throughout the electorate. And when we feel helpless and hopeless, and you see this, and I know this is a really, lowbrow word, but it just always comes to my mind when I see Pam Bondi. When you see this twat that's the attorney general behaving the way she is, and it makes you feel upside down, you have to remember the resistance from everyday Americans in a grand jury to say, no, you are not going to charge our lawmakers. And Don, I think you're going to see it when your case goes up. You're going to see the incompetence of this DOJ and your legal team completely dismantle them the way Letitia James did, the way James Comey did. And so it's painful to watch this incompetence, and we're all exhausted from it. But we have to remember a part of this is their desired effect, so that we descend in denialism and we don't keep fighting the good fight.
It's interesting. When I hear twat, I think J.D. Vance is the person that comes to mind. But, to each their own, I guess.
It's a touche. I mean, we're splitting hairs, Tim.
I don't think anybody's ever used that word. I don't think I've heard that word since I'm in my 30.
Is this elimination first?
This is a elimination. I think in my entire broadcast history, I've never heard someone say that word. So congratulations. I appreciate it. Jen, this one is, Tim, this is another one for you. This is Becca Ballant again, talking about going into the SCIF. And I thought these were very important details. Here it is.
And in fact, we had minders in the room and they kept changing the rules. Like, you can't, they told us we couldn't bring in any printed materials from the files to compare to the files on the screen, which is,
redactions are hard to keep track of.
Yeah, absolutely. Then they told me I couldn't take notes on my printed material. Then they told me I couldn't bring in sticky notes. it just kept changing. And then you got minders in the room making sure you're not using phones, but they had already confiscated our phones. So there was no way we were going to be using phones. And it just goes right to the heart of what we've been saying about this administration all year. They are acting as an authoritarian regime. It is textbook fascism what they are doing.
Okay, so we had a word that Jen used, and now we have that word. Becca Ballin, who's not usually hyperbolic, and I don't think she's particularly far left, she's saying this is fascism.
Yeah, and this came to attention, I think, yesterday, at least to my vantage point, based on a Getty photographer, which is some importance of journalism, who like caught a photo of Bondi looking through her binder or whatever, her notes in front of her, and it listed all the things that Prameya Jayapal had been searching for when she was reviewing the files. And yeah, there's a photo, and that's crazy. Like the executive branch spying on the legislative branch. It's also against the law. It's just straight against the law. Look, they passed this with one vote dissenting. I think a congressman from down here in Louisiana, appropriately. The whole, everyone in Congress in both parties passed this law so we could see these files, and they're not following the law. And I thought Massey was really good on that yesterday, a Republican from Kentucky. But she's right to be sounding the alarm on this balance, and you're right that she's not. This is not, a fire or bomb thrower or a member of the squad or whatever. And she's like a very middle of the road congresswoman, and if she's that alarmed, I think that's telling.
Well, it's also look, it's frightening. If they are going to do that, when people say they're going to do that to Don Lemon, imagine what they would do to me. If they're going to do that to lawmakers, imagine what they're doing to everyday citizens. If they're going to surveil lawmakers, if they're going to change the rules about what they can and cannot do. I mean, it's no different than Pete Hegseth over, at the Pentagon saying, we have to have some approval of what you put out. I mean, I think she's right to use that word fascism, Jen.
I think so too. And I think the key word here is surveillance. And you hear, if you really start digging into the donors and the oligarchs of this regime, Peter Thiel, Palantir, surveillance. You've heard reports of women that were just, what do they call them? Legal observers in Minneapolis. And then a ICE agent takes a picture of them. And then they go to fly the next couple of days and their TSA is removed because they were legal observers. So this surveillance state, which, let's be real here, Donald Trump is kind of intellectually lazy, but there are some evil, smart people back behind him that have this technology that taxpayers are funding, which Congress is seeking more funding for. And this phrase, surveillance state, keeps popping up over and over and over again. And so to Tim's point about the journalist that took a photograph of that, and we know that they're surveilling Congress, hopefully this will help Congress people vote against funding for this type of software and for taxpayers to pay for a taxpayer-funded surveillance state.
Oh, well, what's next, Tim? I think they're voting on whether to keep the Department of Homeland Security funded. Where are we at? You're over at the Bulwark. You guys, this is all you do. Where are we right now?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I just want to add one thing on Jen's point, because I think it's really important going after the surveillance state, just from like a political perspective. When I was coming up, back when I was a Republican, I hate to remind people about that, but just is what it is. The Democrats, Obama gained a lot of, I think, political credibility with like the libertarian set, the Rogan set, a lot of these like the podcast bros, because he was going after the Bush surveillance state, and I think had a lot of legitimate critiques of it, and I think that the Democrats at that time were positioned as being the party that was like anti this, this establishment, anti this kind of big government, boot on your neck type of politics. And I do think the Democrats lost that a little bit in the last kind of period, in the Clinton, Biden, Kamala Harris era. And I do think that is, I'm glad that Jen brought that up, because I think that's a big issue that could kind of unite basically progressives and people that voted for Kamala Harris, but also a lot of folks that were those Obama Trump voters, a lot of folks that don't have a lot of trust in the government and saw Trump as an outsider going after the establishment. Now Trump is the establishment. he's the one working with Peter Thiel to spy on you. And I do think that's it's both correct policy to go after that, but I think also good politics for Democrats. And I think it'd help, expand the coalition a little bit. On the DHS funding bill, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. This is not what you're supposed to do as a pundit, but I'm kind of two minds about it. Like, on the one hand, I think getting some meaningful concessions is important. Like, people are being brutalized in the streets by masked agents, and if the Democrats can get them to make concessions, make them take off their masks, do other things that changes their policies, and it's enforceable, and there's evidence they'll actually do it. That's an approach that I think is worth considering. On the other hand, I do think it's hard to say. It's hard to vote for any deal that provides any funding for these guys, given their behavior, and I think that is going to be the crux of the debate. Over the next week or two, as Democrats try to figure out, can they get enough meaningful concessions to make things better for people who are being harassed and worse by ICE and CBP, or they hold the line on maybe a partial shutdown to make sure that because you just can't bring yourself to vote for any funding at all on this. I think it's going to be a tough question.
Tim, do you even lift?
Do I even lift? Like I said, I do the 5-pound weights. Okay, we're doing the lateral tries. It's usually like 6 o'clock class. It's kind of it's a what do they call it? A HIIT class, HIIT.
Yeah,
it's me and a bunch of probably iHeart listeners. It's me and a lot of Jen. It's just like me and a bunch of wine moms. It's great.
Jen, you run into Tim at the gym, don't you? I mean, Jen is a workouter.
Yeah, I'm a workouter. I would run circles around Tim at the gym. I would shine.
No, not this Tim. I mean, my Tim. I think you guys.
Oh, your Tim. I think I could take him on too. I really like my exercise.
That's a tougher competition. I'd like to watch that while I sit on the sidelines.
The other Tim is pretty fit, I have to say. That would be tough.
There are 2 Tims in my life, one in New Orleans and one here. Thank you. And Tim Miller's in New Orleans. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jen Welch. We'll see you soon. I've had a podcast and over at the Bulwark for Tim Miller. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Our power panel. Like that. I always laugh when they say that on cable. No, Cubs are a power panel. And now a word from our sponsors. Support comes from Shopify. Shopify. When I started the Don Lemon Show, I thought the hard part would be the content. Well, I was wrong. There were scripts, logos, schedules, merch, decisions stacked on top of decisions, all kinds of things. It felt like the to-do list would never stop growing. And that's where Shopify came in for us. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses and about 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And yes, we use Shopify here to bring you the merch that you love. I was apprehensive. You demanded it. I did it. And you know what? You were right. I was wrong. Shopify makes it easy to build a store that actually looks like your brand with templates, AI tools, and built-in marketing that helps you find customers without needing a tech team. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/lemon. That's shopify.com/lemon. Our show is sponsored by MSI Reproductive Choices, a global leader in women's reproductive health care. Across Africa and Asia, MSI serves women who often have little or no access to care. Their stories are powerful. Students who want to finish school without fear of an unplanned pregnancy. Families whose livelihoods are threatened by climate change. Women who simply want the ability to decide if and when to have children. Government funding cuts have made access harder, but MSI keeps going because of support from everyday people. For $39, you can provide a year of contraception to 6 women. That's real impact. So text LEMON to 511-511 or visit msiunitedstates.org. That's M as in modern, S as in safe, I as in informed. Text LEMON to 511-511 or go to msiunitedstates.org to donate today. And thank you so much to all of our sponsors. So here, let's discuss what happened yesterday, okay? And what's happening in general. One of the biggest critics of the Trump administration as it relates to their handling of the Epstein files and beyond has been Ro Khanna. And Ro Khanna is of the belief that either something extremely nefarious, he said it on this program, extremely nefarious happened, or that he is covering up, and or that he's covering up for some very powerful people. Here's what Ro Khanna has been saying just recently.
You think there's people more powerful than the ones that are already in there? I mean,
Yes.
Yes, I think there are people who are more powerful or have more information or are more connected into some of these networks that haven't been released. There's no other explanation. I mean, I'm willing to listen to Blanche because he's saying we can see the unredacted files, but there's no other explanation for having an email to Jeffrey Epstein with the abuser's name blacked out, and the email just says, I enjoyed the naughty girl you sent, or I enjoyed the Brazilian girl. Like, why are you blacking that out? Or, you have my permission to kill blacked out. Why? Who are you think that?
Who are they going to kill?
Yeah. You think it's Survivor?
Who did they kill?
You think it's...
Aren't they saying there's bodies buried at the New Mexico ranch?
There were emails about that. And so there's...
I'll bet there's no excavators over there right now looking for anything.
And how do you not investigate it?
And look, all right, I get it. I understand what he's saying. And he's a lawmaker, so he knows more than I do. But the folks who really don't, I don't know, do they know anything? No. They helped to catapult Donald Trump to the Oval Office once again. And that was the sort of the podcast bros, the manosphere. And now they're all turning and basically saying the same thing that Ro Khanna is saying, even though that they ushered him into the White House. And, I hate to play this, but it just shows how little they know and how quickly they can turn, and that some people should not be speaking about politics, especially if they know nothing about it. Here's Andrew Schultz.
So how powerful are the people that Trump is protecting? Or does Epstein or the powers that be have incriminating evidence on him prior to 2005? Evidence of him doing any, I don't even want to mention horrible fucking things, where he's willing to go down with the ship instead of just exposing it. Because if he did stop being friends with him, and he was sure that they didn't have anything, knowing Trump,
yes,
wouldn't he just sell everyone else down the river?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. That's Andrew Schultz, who is, I don't know what you can call him, obviously a comedian, more of a talker, more of just a bro podcaster. Tim Pool is something else, though, who is a huge Donald Trump supporter to the far right, is now all of a sudden sounding like a Democrat as well. This morning, we spoke in our meeting before our editorial meeting. I said, what do you call these people? Wait till I show you what Nick Fuentes said. That'll be next. But what do you call these folks who have gone so far right that they, I don't know, fell off, or they came all the way back around the earth, right? Like in a circle, and now they're left. Here's Tim Pool.
I ain't cutting Trump any slack. Now that we know that they've covered up the conspirator documents, there's a document saying that they were investigating co-conspirators Epstein. There's photos and videos of minors and children. Dan Bongino was like, look, a lot of these things were hearsay and, fake tips that were uncorroborated. All of that is true, but there's still no excuse for them not exposing these deep, dark, corrupt pedos. Like, I can understand. I can understand Bill Gates didn't do anything criminal. If it is true that he got an STD from Russian hookers and gave it to his wife on accident, that's not illegal. He got divorced. I can understand why it's embarrassing. And I can respect someone saying, please don't release that email. It's not material to anybody. It's just internal drama that's gross and embarrassing.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff in there, like that's already being brought up, that I would say is shocking to the conscience that Trump called it a hoax.
Oh, boy. Oh boy, these guys come on, Tim Pool. We know Tim Pool is an idiot, but didn't they know this before the election? For them to sit there and say, especially Andrew Schultz and Tim Pool, and a lot of them, their raison d'etre, not Andrew Schultz, but Tim Pool, their raison d'etre was like the Epstein files. Epstein didn't kill himself, and he didn't unalive himself. And then now they blame that on Joe Biden and the Democrats. And now they're doing the same thing for Donald Trump. Did they not realize that at the time when people told them that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files hundreds of times, it was hundreds of times then. Now it's thousands, if not tens of thousands of times that his name was mentioned in the Epstein files? Did they not know that? Did they not see the video of him partying and some of the evidence that came out, the emails? It's bizarre. Now, one person who is even further right than Tim Pool, and that's Nick Fuentes. I know you guys always say, hey, well, before we get to that, I want to bring in someone, and then I'll play this. so that they can see it. But joining us now is Mr. Scott Galloway. He is the host of Prof G podcast and also Pivot. Are you there, Scotty? How are you? Okay, Scotty's not ready. We'll get him in just a minute. Play Nick Fuentes, please.
Our featured story, we are talking all about this Pam Bondi hearing today in the Senate. What is that all about? This is like the worst defense from a politician I have ever seen in my entire life. It's just like a joke. And maybe you've seen the clip already. It went viral on social media. Pam Bondi goes to a hearing in the Senate. She's interrogated about the Jeffrey Epstein files. Or pardon me, this is in the House. She is interrogated over the Jeffrey Epstein files, and they're asking her about the victims, and are you going to unredact the rest of the files, and are you going to investigate any of these people? And she's talking about the stock market. She's doing this like ham-handed Trump thing where she's trying to insult the people asking the questions, trying to do the most transparent and obvious and clumsy pivot I've ever seen in my life. They're saying, hey, release the files. She's like, you're a loser. You're a never-Trumper. What about the stock market? Bitch. And you know what's amazing about this? You know that she was coached by Trump to do this. That's the worst part. Because I know how Trump operates, and I know how he thinks, and I know his MO. And you know that before she went into this hearing, they had a huddle, and they knew this was coming. They knew they were going to be asked about the files, and I'm sure Trump told her, you know, you got to talk about the stock market. You got to flip the script. You got to frame it in a different way. Talk about all the other successes.
Thank you very much for that. That's exactly what he said, and what happened, something similar to that, because she was playing to an audience of one. Scott Galloway, can you hear us this time? Hello, Scott. Can you hear us? Scott can't hear us. Technical difficulties. But you look good, Scott. Scott Galloway looks good. Yeah, so I don't know what's happening with Scott Galloway. Anyways, Prof G, who is the academic and has 2 podcasts, can't figure out how to work this new media. That's going to be the headline that we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to tease him about. So look, that was just part of what Nick Fuentes had to say. There's a lot longer. I'm not going to, make you relive that. Let's see. Is Scott still trying to get back in? I don't think we've ever had this many technical difficulties. Okay, let's see. Can Scott hear us this time? Scott Galloway, are you there? Check this out. You guys look. He's walking around his studio and you can't hear you, Scott Galloway. We can see you though. Oh, well, no worries. So let's see. Here's what we're going to do. I want to play this because we're getting close to the top of the hour. This is what happens when you have someone like Pam Bondi do what she did yesterday in front of the world. Of course, it is fodder for the comedians, especially late night hosts like Jimmy Kimmel. Watch this.
She's shouting like a crazed dance mom, berating Democrats for giving her chubby daughter a low score.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
You're obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm going to answer the question.
I answer my question.
No, you don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
I'm
if they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to reclaim your time. Do you want me to answer or do you want to interrupt? Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you. The witness is interrupting.
I'm better with this woman. She's doing theatrics. Embarrassing. He's a hypocrite. This is so ridiculous. Shame. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're talking about public corruption to me? Whoa. This isn't a circus. This is a hearing.
This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies. I couldn't tell.
C-SPAN suddenly turned into C-SNAP.
It felt to me, I felt like I was watching an episode of The Housewives. I'm not sure if it was Atlanta or New York, whichever one flips the tables over the most. I mean, it certainly made for good television. It wasn't good for America. It wasn't good for our country. It wasn't good for democracy. And it certainly wasn't good for the most important people who were sitting in that room, and that's the victims, who, by the way, Pam Bondi would not even turn to address. This picture that I'm going to put up, I think, is the defining picture of the hearing from yesterday. A number of the victims looking at Pam Bondi, raising their hands, Pam Bondi being asked to turn around and address them somehow, perhaps apologize to them in some way. She wouldn't even look up from her notes. It was an embarrassing display. And that's where we are in America. Do we have Scott Galloway? Producers, tell me what's going on. Scott Galloway, are you there?
Let's try one more time.
Scott Galloway. I swear, this is the craziest technical difficulties. Okay, team, what's going on? All right, so I think this is where we can end it. We're going to thank Scott for coming on and all of the other folks, okay? So listen, if you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, here's what you do. Go to donlemon.com, and of course, at the top of the page here, which I think is important, and for you to know, and I think you guys do know because we talk about it all the time, is that we were nominated for 4 NAACP Image Awards. 4. Can you believe that? As an independent, going up against the big broadcast and cable networks. So here's what you do. We've made it very simple for you, because if you go to the webpage, their webpage, it's very tough. It is it's a complicated process. So we've made it easy for you. So top of donlemon.com, and just follow our steps. So number 1, you hit Outstanding Podcast, Society, and Culture, and click Vote for Don. And then you back out right back to donlemon.com, and you do number 2, Outstanding Podcast, News and Information. And then you vote for me. And then you hit the back button back to donlemon.com. Same thing with 3 and 4 for Outstanding News, and back out, Outstanding News and Information Series, and Outstanding Host. And there you go. And then go to number 5, and all you have to do is hit that button, submit, all the way down to the bottom. All the categories are going to pop up. And then right at the bottom of that, it says Submit Now. You do that, it will populate, and it'll tell you, are these the ones that you want to vote for? And check them and hit submit. It'll ask you for your email, and then you're done. So thank you for that. And again, as I said, if you want to know anything about the show, go to donlemon.com. Thank you guys for helping to build this community, the best community ever. This evening, our Lemon Legends are going to be on. Can't wait to see the Lemon Legends. Some of them are in the chat now, like Jen Griffin is there. Can't wait to see her. And thanks to my great team this morning. We put on a great show. We had breaking news. We had to turn on a dime to get this news on. Sorry that we had the technical difficulties that we don't usually have with Scott Galloway. I don't know, Scott, can you hear me now? We'll try one more time. But I don't think Scott can hear us. So we'll try. At least nothing beats a failure but a try. So thank you for that. You can become a member if you go click on donlemon.com, that arrow button, the play button. That is our YouTube page. So hit that, Andy, and then you can subscribe and also join. The memberships are very reasonable. As a matter of fact, we were with some big time streamers yesterday at the YouTube conference in Washington, D.C. And we were used as examples for our memberships and and for channel growth. And they were telling us, you guys probably should raise your membership rates. And I said, no way, I'm not going to do that to my community. So very reasonable. You pay more for coffee than you'll pay for the membership. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. That's how we stay streaming viable on these streaming streets out here. We don't have big corporate sponsors. We don't have gatekeepers telling us what we can and cannot say. And we want to continue to do that. So, and we do that through your generosity. So we appreciate that. And so whatever platform you're watching us on, and however you join the community, thank you, whether it is on YouTube, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Don Lemon, whether it is on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, or on Apple, iHeart, or Spotify. We appreciate you, okay? And then a Substack as well. And we're live on all of those platforms. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And this is what I want to tell you. I want you to be informed without being inundated until I see you back here this evening at 5 o'clock Eastern time on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. This is what you should do. Keep your sanity. Turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.